Good.
Other than people touching the shoulder.
Mm.
I am not kidding. I am going to put a Post-it note on my shirt next week. I'm going to get a safety pin and I'm going to put it on there and it says, "Do not touch this shoulder."
They see you in a sling. Do they not understand?
I don't know. I don't know.
You just have somebody come up and just like slap you on the back, or
one person hugged me and patted it a few times, and another guy wanted to pray for me, so he put his hand up right where the 26 stitches were pulled out.
Mm.
And he's a very nice old man, but still, dude, I was like, come on.
I'd have just grabbed his hand and moved it. Hey, man, thank you for the prayers, but that hurts.
I understand.
All right. Oh, crap. I closed the thingy. Okay. All right. You ready?
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. Warpath and Domino are getting busy.
Johnny Storm is broke as a joke.
Captain America meets a talking dog.
All this and more on this week's episode of the 6 Months Behind podcast.
Three, 2, 1.
What is up? This is the 6 Month Behind podcast for the week of 8/2018. I am Pat.
And I am Sean.
And this week we are Jeremiah Denton and John McCain because John McCain passed away yesterday. And I don't know if his type of politician will ever be seen again. How you doing, man?
Well, I'm pretty good, you know.
On that somber note.
Yeah, on that somber note, how you doing? No, I'm good. We try not to dive too deep into politics on the show, but I think bringing up John McCain's fine. Jeremiah Denton, by the way, was the senator from Alabama who also was a POW with John McCain, and which I did not know until just a few minutes ago when you mentioned it. The only thing I knew about him was Richard Shelby took his seat back in the 80s, and then they made a movie about him starring Hal Holbrook, who I happen to like a lot. But John McCain, man, you know, it's funny. He died 9 years to the day of the same brain cancer that killed Robert Kennedy.
I did not know that.
Yep. The exact same cancer, the exact same day, 9 years difference. And in a time like this, someone like John McCain is sorely needed in the Senate. And I think Dianne Feinstein summed it up pretty well that when she said that the last of the lions are gone.
Yeah, I think so. You know, and he was someone who was willing to compromise and put aside partisan politics to get things done, and who firmly stood for what they believe for. And I just don't think we're going to see people like him anymore.
I think we will, but not for a little bit. I think there's a contingent of up and coming politicians that are seeking office for the same reasons that John McCain did, that he saw politics as a public service and a way to serve his country. And he understood that he was representing not just the people of Arizona, but the people of America. and it wasn't a bid for power. It wasn't status. It was because he truly believed the ideals that he held, and he wanted to fight for those in an arena where it mattered. I mean, I very much did not agree with John McCain's politics, but he defended Obama against racists. He was the deciding vote to save the Affordable Care Act, invariably saving millions of lives. He put principle over party and self-interest, which in politics is called courage. Yeah. He was a good man and served the country with dignity.
Absolutely.
So, and we're going to dive into politics a little bit more when we discuss Captain America later, because it's relevant to the current political climate, particularly here in the United States. And also I read Captain America just a few hours after I got the news that John McCain had passed away. So that was hanging over it and was the context and lens through which I read that issue of Captain America.
Hey, let me ask you something and move us on to a lighter note. Who did that Captain America? Is it Mark Waid that did that Captain America?
Yeah, Mark Waid's writing it currently.
Yeah. And he's also writing the Avengers. And they began this legacy reboot of the Marvel Universe, which at best didn't work out well. At worst was a disaster. Mm-hmm. With these Avengers books, the Captain America books, a few others, and immediately turned around and canceled them.
Pretty much. And, I mean, I think we got 6 months of legacy and then reboot.
Yeah, I think it's 16 issues on this Avengers run, and it's either 4 or 6 issues of Mark Waid's Captain America run. And when I was looking at this Captain America run, I was reading this, it looks like he's laying the storyline here for a very long arc that we know isn't coming.
Yeah,
because Ta-Nehisi Coates is going to pick it up, and I was just wondering, how off guard they were caught on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they had always planned on giving Ta-Nehisi Coates the book, but I'm particularly enjoying Mark Waid's run right now, particularly with Chris Samney's art. I know you don't care for the art, but I love it, and I think that Mark Waid is doing a good job of resetting Steve Rogers and Captain America after Secret Empire. And he's laying the groundwork for Ta-Nehisi Coates to do what he's going to do with the series, which I've read like the first issue of. And if you're familiar with Ta-Nehisi Coates' other writing is very much in that vein. In fact, when we start looking at Ta-Nehisi Coates as Captain America in a few months, we won't be able to avoid the issues of politics on the podcast.
Right. So, yeah, there you go. What else is going on in the world, man?
College football starts in a week.
Dude, it started yesterday.
Yeah, I watched that Jacksonville State game. I actually didn't see the end of it, but I watched a little
bit of it. Hawaii and Colorado State played, and Wyoming and somebody played.
Hawaii and Colorado State.
It's like week 0 of college football. Okay?
Yeah, kind of. And the thing I hate is you get the first week of college football, and then everybody plays a cupcake game.
Yeah, you get week 0, which is this weekend. And the next weekend, everybody plays big games, and then you hit cupcake games, and then in 2 or 3 weeks, you get in conference schedules and everything gets rolling.
Yeah, I mean, you're 3 and 4 weeks in before the season really gets going, and that irritates me. But whatever. It's college football. I'm glad it's back. And our listeners get to listen to us talk about college football again.
There you go. I did my NFL fantasy draft yesterday for my first team. Hopefully I'm only going to have one NFL fantasy team this year.
Who was, and I just saw the highlights on SportsCenter. Who was the player on that team that kept running to the wrong side of the field?
I don't know. I saw the story. I don't know if dude had a concussion. I don't know what his malfunction was.
Yeah, he ran to the wrong side of the field twice. After the second time, I think you just sit him out. It's like, dude, you're hurt, or you just have completely lost the fundamentals of the game. I don't know what your deal is, but sit down.
Well, here's what NFL players do. If they go to a ref or they go to one of the coaches and show any signs of a concussion whatsoever, or they tell anyone on that staff, dizzy, anything, they immediately go into the NFL concussion protocol. And there's a doctor on that sideline who isn't affiliated with the team who examines the player. And it may lead to him not only returning in that game, but not returning for weeks. So what players do is simply don't report that they have a concussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is just all bad.
And from the player's standpoint, I understand. But given all that we have learned about head injuries related to football, I wouldn't do it.
Dude, there was a guy last year. It was the guy that was quarterbacking the 49ers at the time. Took a hard hit, staggered some getting up, and then went under center for the next play. And if I'm remembering correctly, just kind of passed out and fell down and started having seizures.
Yeah, I remember that.
Gets to the sideline. There's like, nope, nothing to see here. No problems, no concussions, no nothing. And ran him back in the game.
Dude. That's crazy.
It is crazy, man.
At that point, I think if I'm the doctor, I'm running over to the coaches and be like, I'm pulling him out of the game.
It was asked, why didn't somebody do something? An official, a doctor, somebody.
Yeah, somebody. Yeah. And it should have been. Something should have been done.
Yeah. Anywho, how about some comic books?
Yeah, if you want to email us about what you think about college football, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6 months behind @gmail.com.
What will not be on the website, which is www.6monthsbehind.com, is football, unless, a mood strikes me and I put it there. I don't think so, but you never know.
Yeah, well, we become a semi-football podcast this time of year, so you never know.
Yeah, you never know what's going to wind up there. So, anywho, our first book this week is Avengers number 680. Hold on. Hello.
We talk about spoilers on this podcast.
Yes.
And because we're 6 months behind, we may talk about spoilers that are not just in these comic books that we're about to get into, but also stuff that's happened already. Yes. So be warned, if you haven't read everything, if you don't want to be spoiled, pause here, come back after you've read everything. We'll still be here.
Yeah, because there's lots of narcotics floating around in my system. So, what may actually come out of my mouth, who knows?
Yeah, from your shoulder surgery.
Yes.
Yes. not just your casual drug habit.
And I also have a lack of sleep going on, so there's that also. So, yeah.
Well, in that case, let's get into Avengers 680.
Each of these issues is, and this is what book part are we on? Part 6. Each of these issues in this storyline, this No Surrender storyline, are narrated by a different character. And this character, or this issue this week, is narrated by Rogue. And she's just learned that Johnny Storm has supposedly died taking the crystal in a couple of issues ago. And, Living Lightning is there to tell her, and they're trying to decide whether or not they want to attack or retreat. And Rogue's like, okay, let's just go beat people up.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's all she cares to do right now. She's pissed and she just wants to go punch faces.
Yep. That's her plan. We have a brief visit with the other team. Then Wonder Man goes to visit Hank McCoy and the young Wasp. Nadia, thank you. Who are taking care of Jarvis, and they have a theory about what might be wrong with him, but it didn't exactly work out. So now everyone's upset and crying even more. Then we cut back to Rogue, who's just opening the can of, on the Black Order. Yes. Just pretty much taking out the Black Order by herself.
Trying to, at least.
Yeah. And that leaves us with the last page, which is the monster that we discussed last week.
Yep.
Now, here's something that Marvel did at the time, because they've been resurrecting Wolverine for like 8 months now. If you flip to the very last page, you get one page of Wolverine wandering around.
Really?
Okay? For reasons only Marvel knows.
I missed that.
Yeah, if you look on the cover, it's got this little thing down in the corner. It says Wolverine. I'm trying to get back to the cover. Wolverine Resurrection issue. Where is Wolverine? There you go. Where is Wolverine?
Okie dokie.
And on a lot of these books, if you flip all the way to the last page, over the next couple of months, you get a page of Wolverine wandering around doing nothing. So, 6 months later, we still don't know where he is, which is ludicrous to me.
Absolutely ludicrous. It's taking forever. It's literally been since what? The Legacy relaunch?
It was the Legacy one-shot, which was 3 or 4 months ago. On the newsstand now, they're still looking for him. That's 9 months.
Yeah, and there's like 3 different series exploring where he's been and why they're looking for him and all that.
Yes. Oh, no, it's not 3, man. It's up to 4 or 5. It's one shot. It's limited series. It's dude, it's ridiculous. It's just anyway. Just bring him back.
Yeah, right. Like everyone wants him back. I understand if you want to do a limited series of a book to bring him back, but like, dude, just get there.
Dude, I mean, we've talked about this. What they just did with Jean Grey is how to do it.
Yes, exactly. This is how to do it. And this is one of those things that comic books do too often is they, like I phrased it last week, they fiddle fart around getting to the point, and it's all in an attempt to sell comic books. It is.
It is. And I understand everything is about selling comics, but at some point, whether it's the oversaturation of Deadpool and Black Panther, or it's the way they're dragging out that Wolverine story, you just say, come on, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's getting ridiculous.
Yes. Next, we have Cable in our X-Men books this week. We have Cable number 154 with the last issue of the Externals saga.
Thank God.
This actually wasn't bad. I'm doing Weapon X and this Cable book this week. The Weapon X book was pretty good. This Cable book wasn't bad if you're into these characters. I mean, these are all Rob Liefeld, mid 1990 characters that for whatever reason Ed Brisson decided to bring back up again, and it looks like Liefeld drew it. I mean, in a lot of the art, man, and part of it's that Long Shot and Shatterstar and Cable are all there, and Gideon's there, but part of it's the whole thing's almost an homage to Liefeld, man. Anyway, so they're regrouping, and Gideon drops a Blackbird on them. You ever wonder how many Blackbirds the X-Men have? Or where they going to manufacture that?
Yeah, like the idea has always been that Charles Xavier comes from money and that he's just funding them. But it's like, dude, how much money has he got? If funding the Avengers for 20 minutes takes the billions of dollars that Johnny Storm had, then what is going on with?
Yeah, what's rebuilding the X Mansion and buying a dozen Blackbirds costing the Xavier Foundation?
Yeah, I mean, they're this is top of the line tech that the government doesn't even have, and they're rebuilding the X Mansion 4 times a week.
I don't Yeah, I don't even know.
I don't get it either.
You ever been in the Huntsville Space Station and seen that XR-71 they got sitting outside?
Yes, I was very young, but yes,
it's pretty cool, man.
It is cool. It's real cool.
Yeah.
There was a guy on Reddit a few years ago who got to pilot one of those and talked about his experience piloting one of those SR-71s, and he told some cool stories, man.
Dude, those things are special, man. I mean, the altitude and the speed that they fly at is just insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's almost like the space shuttle, and I forget the details, but it's got very specific heat shields on it and very specific metal because it expands and contracts as it freezes and heats.
Yes.
And I forget what the details of it were, but dude, that's you ain't dropping one of those on somebody and not having to pay for it and thinking, I need the money back.
Yeah. Dude, yeah. Those are what does an SR-71 cost? Several million for sure. While you tell us about this book, I'm going to Google it.
So they get the brawling, and apparently Selena is using Blink for something. She's mind whopping for something, and there's an editor's reference in there. And we discussed the editor's reference last week. And finally, Blink just teleports his head off. She just decapitates Gideon by teleporting his head away.
$34 million.
Which is, $34 million win. Like in the 60s.
It just says unit cost $34 million.
Yeah, that was a while back.
Maybe. I don't know.
So anywho, Blink kills the bad guy. All the good guys all the bad guys are taken with Cable to the future where they can be stored, and everyone lives happily ever after. And I have no idea what this last page is about. Which, it's some lady giving birth to a baby with purple eyes.
Yeah, it was $34 million in 1964. So today, if you were to build one, $100 billion or $100 million.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
A lot of money. So anyway, that concludes the that Cable run.
Is the book done?
No. It concludes that storyline. Storyline's where I was looking for. It was good, man. I really enjoyed it. Particularly the last issue or two. It kind of drug in the beginning. The last issue or two got better.
If you say so.
Yeah.
Old Man Logan number 35 is also the conclusion of this storyline. It's been the big showdown with Gorgon. I wanted to say Dagon, that ain't it. Gorgon and his resurrectable hand soldiers. What's this lady's name? Mariko, that's it. Something Eco. Mariko's basically putting the beat down on him. Logan's kind of out of commission. As has been discussed in the story, his healing factor is not what it used to be. Gorgon's just stuffing him full of samurai swords, and he threatens to kill Logan if Mariko doesn't stop. Of course, he buries like a third or fourth sword into Logan, and Logan's gonna die. She takes out Gorgon. He literally is like, he fades out. Logan's going to die here of his wounds because his healing factor can't keep up if she doesn't do something. So she gives him a vial of the Regenix, which is the stuff that they were giving the hand soldiers. They wake up on a boat to Tokyo or wherever they're going. The fight's over. Everything's fine. He's fine. And they go to meet the Silver Samurai through Yoshida Corporation, and they're like, hey, we lived up to our end of the bargain. You got to live up to yours. You got to set this girl up whose father you killed, which he does. The real meat of this comic book is that now that all this is over, Mariko having been resurrected, can just go back to being alive again. And she and Logan have to say goodbye again. And he doesn't really want to let her go because it's almost the only woman he's ever loved. I mean, he's loved a lot, but she was the first, or at least he holds her very dear, and having to watch her just walk away is difficult. So he wanders off to a bar to get drunk. And as he's walking into the bar to get a beer, because all he wants is a beer, some guy crashes through the window. And he's like, dude, all I wanted was a beer. Which is how this series began, by the way. Yes, it is. Yes. He's looking for beer in Tokyo, and somebody crashes through the bar window. Yeah. Next issue, he's taken on the mayor of New York, which is, of course, the Kingpin. Did you notice that the artist has changed? No. Yeah, it's Abram Robertson. Yeah. Is that just for one issue, or is Deodato doing something else? He's still doing the covers, but I think he's moved on to other projects. Well, he's doing something else. He's doing all the Infinity stuff. That's probably what it was then. Which really looks good, by the way. Yeah, you told me it was good.
Yeah. Okay, so let me summarize that story. The villain has a healing drug, a drug that makes people more powerful and heals them, and the heroes have to stop it from falling into the hands of, in this case, the hand or the enemy. Does that summarize that plot line? Okay, good.
Pretty much.
Okay, that brings us to Weapon X-14, where the Weapon X team is in the warehouse housing all the pills that make nuke, all the red pills, white pills. We saw this in the Jessica Jones first season, because they got the same thing. They got pills that make people powerful. It's not working out for them there on the island of Santa Marco. So what do? Well, they take the pills. By the way, it's the same character. Oh, wait, it's Old Man Logan again, taking, now he's got Regenix and the red pills in him. Okay, this is going to work out well.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, the editors haven't consulted each other at all and don't realize you're both writing the same storylines. There you go.
Right.
So anyway, they all take the red pills, which make you very strong, increase your healing factor, make you crazy, and in the case of Domino, apparently lower your inhibitions, because in the middle of fighting everyone and bullets flying everywhere and, lots of people dying, she decides it's a good time to jump Warpath.
Yeah. The red pills also take you out of the Matrix, and you become the one.
Yes.
And fight Mr. Smith.
Yes. So, anywho, the good guys win, the bad guys lose. The bad guys see to it that, and Warpath does something pretty cool here. He turns Nuke loose, knowing that Nuke will go kill the president of Santa Marco, which he does. And there you go. Good guys live happily ever after.
Yeah.
And at the end, we have Domino kissing Warpath again.
Well, good for them, I guess. In X-Men Blue number 21, it's part 2 of Poison X storyline, where they've teamed up with Venom. By the way, by the end of this, you'll have realized that they're crossing the X-Men over with Venom, because that Venomverse storyline was super duper popular, and they're advancing that story. In fact, Scott Summers' dad, who they've gone to space to rescue, was captured by what's the lady with the pink hair? Killer Thrill.
Yes.
Killer Thrill, who has been infected by this Venom symbiote that we saw in Venomverse. And it's infected a bunch of her compatriots as well, and that's who they face in this comic. So they walk into a space bar, or a saloon, a space saloon. There's a difference. And immediately get into a brawl. Like immediately. Like page 2, they're page 1, they walk into the bar. Page 2, they're fighting. And they spend most of the issue fighting. Scott Summers gets seriously injured. They find out a little more about who they're up against. They're just trying to find a way to get his dad back. At the end, though, they end up all infected by the Venom symbiote. So now they're the Venom X-Men. Evil Venom X-Men. Much like we saw in the Venomverse series a few months ago.
Yeah.
It was okay.
Yeah, I that's the one book this week I haven't read yet.
Don't bother.
Tell you what I did read that I wish I hadn't, is Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 42.
I started to read this, saw it was like 40 pages, and immediately closed it. You know how I feel about annuals. I hate annuals.
We've stated our opinion on annuals. We don't like annuals. Let me rephrase that. I like annuals if they serve a purpose. Okay. Sure. For instance, the X-Men Blue annual that came out last week before last. Okay. Mm-hmm. What was used as a launching point to go into this Venom X-Men crossover. Okay. I kind of get that.
Sure. It's great when it's used to either tell a one-off story that's significant to the characters, or to spin off a story that you're going to get into soon.
But this is a group of hero or villains that were literally like in the first or second issue of Spider-Man that were somehow resurrected back which the fact that this is a Clone Saga story should tell you something in itself, and it deals with a bunch of the Clone Saga ramifications of Betty Bryant, Ned Leeds, and Spider-Man, and the Enforcers, and I don't care.
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't read that.
Don't waste your time.
Yeah. What I am glad I read is Spider-Man Renew Your Vows number 16. Now, that may surprise you because I have not really enjoyed this book much up until the last few issues.
The last few issues, it has definitely gotten better.
Yeah, it really has. And I understand now why it's selling, because it's gotten much better. So in this alternate universe where Spider-Man and Mary Jane never separated and had a kid and, you know, became a Spider family, Pete is having trouble selling his photos at the Daily Bugle, getting a pay cut. So he's looking for work. Meanwhile, crap, what's their daughter's name?
I don't remember.
I don't either.
I'm already looking at my next book. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm looking 2 books ahead.
Anyway, Spider-Girl, we'll just call her, is having a hard time fitting in high school. She's a sophomore now. Everyone's got their groups, but none of which she really fits into. So school is hard. Being a teenager is hard. Meanwhile, while they're out patrolling one night, Peter drops the news that he's going to start a new part-time gig as the photography teacher at her high school, which of course she's really not happy about, because when you're a 16-year-old girl, the last thing that's having trouble fitting in, the last thing you want is your dad being a teacher at your school. It's going okay. Mary Jane's like, hey, give her some space. And of course, he's trying to be the cool teacher. Nobody in the class cares that Peter Parker is teaching them. In fact, he's like teaching them about cameras, and one of the girls is like, can't we just use filters on our phones to do that thing that you just described? And he's like, yeah.
Yes, you can.
Meanwhile, is it May Parker? I think it's May Parker. I don't know. I enjoyed this book, but totally forgot what her name was. Stumbles into, well, she has one of her spider visions, which is part of her spider sense that she has, and stumbles into some shady business happening in, it's not the chemistry lab, but they're doing some chemistry in some closet in the school auditorium. Spider-Man gets his spider sense goes off. He's crawling around.
You're thinking of high school students in chemistry in a closet, man. That's not what I was thinking of.
Yeah, it wasn't that kind of chemistry. No.
I actually read the book and I knew what you were talking about, but you painted a vision of something else. Go ahead.
Oh, no, it wasn't that. Anyway, okay. Spider-Man's crawling around the school trying to figure out why his spider sense is going off, runs into his daughter, and she's like, dude, quit crawling on the ceiling. Someone's going to see you and then wonder why you're here. And apparently it's because some demon people are doing bad stuff at the school, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, it's lighthearted and fun. It was good.
Yes. Yeah, it was good. Next, we have Scarlet Spider 14, which didn't suck. Let's say that for it.
That's high praise.
Yeah. You got Kane over there hanging out with his girl Terry, who introduces her to her brother Carrie. Yes, they're the requisite Carrie and Terry are brother jokes and sister jokes,
That's hilarious. It's never been done before.
Ben Reilly goes after Quentin Beck, the original Mysterio, who just wants to be left alone. The Hippo of all villains attacks a man in the first issue. Then he attacks Carrie, who happens to be quarterback of the Las Vegas football team. And then, Kane and the Hippo fight, and it just sounds as dumb as I'm talking. It's that dumb.
But Pat, you said this comic book was good. I thought you loved this comic book.
No. I said good. Okay. There's good. There's very good. There's great. There's comic of the week. Okay. This is good. Okay. This is not like good.
Okay.
Have we ever given an explanation of dude on this podcast?
No, dude.
Dude can be used in various forms. It can be used as noun and adverb. Dude, or it can be a greeting. Dude, what's up, man? Dude can be used for anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay? It can be an exclamation of surprise or disgust.
Dude! Yeah. I mean, it can be used as anything. Okay. That's kind of how good was being used in this context. Okay. It was like, yeah, that's good. Yeah. You did good, Johnny. Go back in your corner.
Right. It's like, oh, I didn't open the comic book and my eyes didn't immediately bleed. So it's good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on to our regular 616 universe comics, Black Panther Long Live the King #5. Now, you and I were thoroughly enjoying Ta-Nehisi Coates' run on the regular Black Panther comic.
Yes.
Long before the movie came out.
Yes.
Before everybody knew who Black Panther was, before he was a phenomenon.
Yes.
The movie comes out, and all of a sudden it's the Deadpool syndrome. They're issuing tons of Black Panther comic books. Black Panther's everywhere. He's on everything that they're publishing. He's showing up in comic books that he wouldn't normally show up in. He's all over the place. This is one of those comic books that's probably just a money grab and has a nice splashy cover. I'll admit the cover looks good, but the story doesn't make any sense.
And if you back up, the books that we're reviewing this week came out in February of 2018.
Yeah.
The second week of February. What happened is Marvel got that movie in the can and started doing previews on it, screenings in the fall of 2017.
And knew it was going to be a hit. Okay. I mean, they knew it. Yeah. People were talking about it. It hits all the right buttons for all the right reasons at all the right times in current day.
And you can just tell. Same thing they did with this Infinity Countdown thing. They started rushing out Black Panther books. Mm-hmm. And that's what's hitting the newsstand then, which is hitting 6 months behind now. And some of them just aren't quality, man. They're just, they just want a Black Panther book. They want a new Black Panther book on the shelf every week, and that's what they're trying to get out there.
Yeah. So we're 5 issues into this. Some sort of weird monster vision attacked the city, or maybe it didn't, and Vibranium's acting weird. They track it down to what they call the Mute Zone, which is a village that exists in Wakanda it's low tech. The chief of this village is a lady that T'Challa knew and kind of sort of dated in college. And then they lost touch. She thinks she understands what's going on. Her father was a researcher who worked for T'Challa's dad and was doing research in this mountain on sentient vibranium. He was trying to make vibranium sentient or something. To make a long story short, another earthquake happens. He sees the monster vision again. He goes into the cave, finds the dead researcher and all his research, finds a box full of vibranium, pours it out on the ground, and all is well. Problem solved.
There you go.
The end.
Is this the last issue of this book, or is this just the end of an arc? Or
it's the end of this story arc. And I guess this is meant to be a series of like a younger Black Panther before he became the Black Panther we know now, or just kind of like other Black Panther stories that aren't happening in the main line. Just like this happened to Black Panther at some point. Dude, it's bad. It's so bad. And it looks good. I like the idea of more Black Panther comics. But my goodness, this story it didn't make any sense, and it was pointless. It didn't do anything.
I understand.
It was literally just a comic book put on the shelf to put a comic book on the shelf.
I'm with you. Next, we have Captain America 698.
Coming up on 700.
I was contemplating the other day, as I was reading this, that I remember when Captain America 190s and 200 was on the newsstand, and I bought it off the newsstand. And one of the things that made me think of it is the story of, there's some there were just a couple of things that made me flash back to that storyline, because they brought Jack Kirby back for it. This is when Jack Kirby had returned to Marvel, and he did like a 6 or 8 issue arc leading up to 200. It was really good for the time. And for those who don't know, we're recording this on the 26th. August 28th will be Jack Kirby's birthday, and I want to say he would have been 102. So anywho, I just want to throw all that in there. You really like what Chris Samnee is doing in this. I'm okay with it. But we have Captain America frozen again in ice. He wakes up, and he wakes up to a person and a talking dog.
Yep. Who's wearing a t-shirt that says "Good Boy."
Yeah. And as we learn, Rampart, when they captured Captain America in ice at the end of the last issue, someone started a nuclear war in America. And I went back and looked at this date. All of these mutations, everything has happened in 7 years.
Yeah, what you don't immediately realize,
2025.
Yeah, what you don't immediately realize and what you think is that this is some, he's been stuck in the ice for 70 years again.
Right.
But it's been 7 years.
Yeah, which I don't really understand, because I don't understand how all these mutations happened and people grew in 7 years. I don't understand it.
You don't have to. It's not the point.
But anyway, Captain America saves the kid.
Suspend your disbelief.
Everyone decides, Captain America really is a hero. He strikes the pose in the last page, and he's going to save everyone, apparently in 2 issues before Ta-Nehisi Coates takes over.
Well, here's the thing, is America has been devastated. The rich upper class have taken over.
Yes.
You don't have elections anymore. You literally have a king sitting on throne. The reason they froze Captain America in ice was to use him as a symbol to say, hey, America's still America. Hooray. See, we have Captain America. We're Americans. Look at how patriotic we are. While being horribly corrupt and bankrupting the country and destroying it, because this nuclear attack was a self-inflicted wound. The rich are getting richer, and they literally brand the poor people to make sure that they stay poor. They're branded with letters so that everyone knows who they are and what they are.
Yes.
And this is a place where, these are who he's met are a number of resistance fighters. And one of them is almost immediately killed because he gets left behind, and they get attacked for the crime of, what is it?
I wanted to say it was sedition, but
it's sedition, but what do they accuse them of?
You're really into this book, aren't you?
Yes.
I can tell.
Yeah.
It's gathering in a public place, man.
Yeah, it's gathering in a public place. I forget exactly. Crime of assembly. Sorry, I was at the back of the comic and had to flip forward. Yeah, they're labeled as seditionists, and their crime is assembly, which, if you know anything about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, is a enshrined right of an American citizen and to assemble. They, this is all about Captain America saving America again. And it sends a somewhat subtle message of, just because you're patriotic doesn't mean you really are. And, fascism can come draped in a flag, or in this case, an American symbol such as Captain America.
Okay, sure.
That's what I took from it. Maybe I was looking for that, but that's what I took from it.
Maybe so.
I mean, why else would you do the storyline?
To tell a story?
Yeah, but why do people tell stories?
For money?
Sure, but you and I are both not naive enough to know that this isn't intentional.
Okay, I tell you what, you try and find something intentional in this Deadpool book.
Oh no, that you won't find anything in. there's no central message to that really, except I don't know.
There actually is.
There can be sometimes.
It's Despicable Deadpool number 294 for the Deadpool for Deadpool, not for kind of for the world at large too. We had that story arc about a year ago that lasted for 6-8 issues,
something like that,
where Madcap was Deadpool tried to kill him, and he was resurrected inside Hydra Bob, and it was all pretty screwy. And now Madcap's back, and what he wants to do is screw up Deadpool's life and then kill him. The problem is, first place he goes to is the Schaefer Theater, where the Deadpool had his Avengers were, and turns out somebody's already belonged to the theater, and Deadpool's already screwed that up. Then he goes and reads a magazine on the secrets of the Secret Empire and realizes, let me go blow up Preston's house. No, wait, Preston's already dead too. And he realizes after fighting for a few minutes, he can't mess up Deadpool's life any worse than Deadpool has messed it up himself, which is an extremely sad commentary on Deadpool and Deadpool's life. It's really kind of sad, that Madcap's like, yeah, I can't do anything worse than you've done to yourself. Can't do it. Yeah. And Deadpool turns him over to the Collector because Madcap's a special thing, and off goes Madcap, and Deadpool's got to kill somebody else for strife, and yeah. There you go.
Yep. Sounds like a Deadpool comic.
It wasn't bad. It just wasn't, it wasn't great.
What was really good was Doctor Strange 385.
That was really good.
First of all, Mike Del Mundo's killing it with these covers. Every one of these covers has just been vibrant and pops. And if you're looking at it on the newsstand, it catches your eye. It may be one of the first things that catches your eye looking at it on a rack of comic books at your store. Then you have the story written by Donny Cates where Loki's the Sorcerer Supreme. This is the conclusion of that story. At the end of last issue, Stephen Strange unleashed the Void and became possessed by the Void, which is why he brought the Sentry back around. Loki, even as Sorcerer Supreme, is not strong enough to beat the Void, and the Void is able to manipulate the spell, the very powerful spell that Stephen bound to Zelma Stanton's soul. It's at this point that in order to extricate Stephen from the Void, Loki uses said spell that he now knows the location of to restore all of the magic in the world, which was his original intention looking for the spell. This whole theme, and we've seen it in other comic books too, is Loki's evil. He must be up to something bad, when in fact, he actually wanted to do some good as Sorcerer Supreme. It's why he became the Sorcerer Supreme, as we'll explore in a moment. So he, now that Stephen Strange is free of the Void, and the Void's just the Void again, they have to use all the magic that they can to push the Void back into his holding cell. And I find it really funny that Loki summons Des and Troy, the two guns that Scourge uses that together are Destroy, to fight off the Void. With the help of the Sentry, they're able to lock it back up. The Sentry immediately punches Stephen in the face for manipulating him like he did. And he's like, Loki, I didn't realize you were going to do that. I didn't realize you wanted to use that spell for that purpose. And he's like, yeah, I've been trying to prove to everybody that I'm not so bad, and nobody believes me. And that's when Zelma's like, look, you need to tell him, what's up, because I know your secret and I'm done. Which Loki then reveals that the tournament of Sorcerer Supremes that Steven lost and Loki won was all one of his illusions, and he basically tricked Steven out of the job. The reason he did is because he wanted to make Steven stronger when he became Sorcerer Supreme again, because he's not ready for what's coming. And he names them. The War of the Realms, which we're already seeing in Thor. Hell on Earth, Damnation. I'm not sure what that is.
Which one?
That's number 2.
I knew that when I read it. I remembered what it was, but keep going.
The Gathering of the Infinity Stones, which we'll see in Infinity.
Yes.
And the Final Host, which is the celestial that's buried under the earth that we'll see in the Avengers when Jason Aaron takes over.
Yes.
And Loki's point is, you weren't strong enough. You didn't have the magic to do it. Now you do. So you're welcome. He also apologizes for killing the dog and says, look, that wasn't part of the plan. It never was. And I'm sorry. And Steven's like, yeah, whatever. And immediately banishes him to wherever he goes. Zelma announces that she can't trust Steven anymore, so she leaves. He's standing there. His house is destroyed, holding his cloak, and the dog's ghost appears and says, congrats, you won. So apparently Damnation is the next storyline coming in Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I knew where that was, and because I remember when he ticked all those off, and I don't remember. I don't know. It's somewhere. Anyway, speaking of good-looking covers, we have Falcon number 5 with a cover by Jay Anceletto and Ramilo Fajardo Jr. That's about the only redeeming part of this book.
I was going to say, that's probably the best part of the book, isn't it?
It is the best part of the book because that cover looks really good. And the rest of this book, I mean, maybe if you're into a hodgepodge of people like Mephisto and Damien Hellstorm and the Two Gun Kid and Snap Wilson. Does anybody even know who Snap Wilson is?
I don't. I even know who the Two Gun Kid is. I like Mephisto a lot, but not enough for this story.
You know, it's a... Anyway, they all fight. The dude redeems himself by killing himself and freeing himself from Nightmare, but he still winds up going to hell. It's a different story. I mean, here's the thing. If you want to fool with these characters, you need to have Doctor Strange doing it. You need the Falcon fighting the hippo.
Hydra. Yeah.
The hippo, okay, in Las Vegas. You don't need the Falcon doing this sort of thing because it doesn't work. And it didn't work. I mean, it provided an arc for them to explore the character of Sam Wilson and kind of return him from being Captain America to being Sam Wilson, the Falcon again. I get that, but it really got bogged down in all these mystical heroes and villains that, you know, are they're just out of his league, man.
And they really don't have anything to do with him. Like,
no.
you could change all of those parts and make them different people and still explore the same story of Sam Wilson.
Yeah.
And honestly, what you need Sam Wilson doing is the same thing he was doing as Captain America, just as the Falcon. That was compelling.
Yes. It was very compelling.
Put Nick Spencer back on the comic.
Didn't think you'd ever say that, did you?
No, I sure didn't.
Next, we have Marvel 2-in-1.
Yeah, Marvel 2-in-1 number 3. There's been this ongoing thing with Doom and is it the Mad Thinker?
Yes.
Yeah. There's the Thinker and then the Mad Thinker, and I forget who they are sometimes because they're basically the same characters but different publishers. He's the Mad Thinker's going mad, and we'll revisit that. Meanwhile, they decide that they need to go cure Johnny Storm's power problems because he's losing his powers. They go to Hercules, who's done that before. And hey, how'd you do it? And Hercules is being Hercules. But finally leads them to some scientist lady who lives in the literal middle of nowhere in Jack Pine, Wyoming, who has her research is all about restoring powered people to their powers. There's a lot of mumbo jumbo that goes on. There's a thing with Hydra Man that is Johnny's kind of chief villain, and they duke it out for a little bit and wreck the place. We find out Johnny doesn't have any money to pay for the services because he spent it all funding the Avengers. It was like, in comic book time, it's been like 3 weeks since he got all that money from Reed Richards' patents.
Billions.
Billions of dollars.
And she wants like, what, $100,000?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars, and still generating billions of dollars because of the patents, yet somehow he's out of money. Yeah. Okay, sure, whatever. Anyway, she decides, you know what, I'll help you anyway because you're trying to find Reed Richards, and you're appealing to my emotional sensibilities. Meanwhile, Doom is in the lair of the Mad Thinker, who accuses of him stealing Reed Richards' tech. And he has been. He's been stealing Reed Richards' tech. And he's decided, being the Mad Thinker, that since Reed Richards is gone, why can't he be Reed Richards? So we have him, cutting his hair off and making himself look like the Mad Thinker. And he's going to assemble his own Fantastic Four that is basically evil Fantastic Four or something. Not the strongest showing of this series.
No, but it does get better. This is where I almost gave up on it, but it gets better.
Yeah. Something else I'm about to give up on is Ms. Marvel.
I've already given up on it.
I know you have. You weren't a huge fan of the book to begin with. But
I wasn't, and then it grew on me, and now it's gotten bad again.
Well, it's because for the last 4 issues, Ms. Marvel isn't in her own comic book.
No.
You've still got the kids running around being the team of Ms. Marvel along with Red Dagger. They finally track down this weirdo dude who's sucking the life out of senior citizens or something. They're able to beat him with the help of Captain Marvel, who they are able to call with that little pendant that Kamala uses all the time. Yeah, in the next issue, she's going to help him clean up the mess, and maybe we'll find out where Ms. Marvel is or something, or maybe we won't. I don't know.
I just sent you something on Twitter you might want to glance at. Old Man Hawkeye #2. Last issue, Clint took Jebediah Hammer to try and deliver some drugs. He managed to kill everyone in the Madrix gang, which called in Sheriff Bullseye in the process. And by the time he gets out of his bedroom, he's done killed everyone in all of his children. Let's put it that way. And then Bullseye starts wanting information from Hammer. And he just really wants to know, if that was Hawkeye and where he is. Then we cut to Hammer Falls, I think. Yeah, Hammer Falls. And the orb is there. I haven't seen this dude since
Original Sin.
Thank you. I kept wanting to say Secret Empire. Original Sin, and I don't care. And he's still got the Watcher's Eye, apparently, and sometimes he puts it on, he can see stuff. But yeah, I don't know what he's doing here, because this is a real good storyline going with Bullseye and Jebediah Hammer and Hawkeye, and Jebediah eventually kills him. Bullseye eventually kills Jebediah Hammer. Hawkeye shoots up into the bar, missing a couple of people with arrows as he does. And then Bullseye's on the way to finding him. But the most interesting thing here is we get a 1-page flashback, which is page 15, as to all the Avengers dying. Because we know that Logan killed the X-Men. But up until now, we've never heard what happened to the rest of the heroes. And apparently Hawkeye has a part in that. So yeah, he's off to Murder World. We find some Venoms at the end of this book because hey, we got to have Venoms everywhere these days.
Yep.
And there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't read this at all, either issue 1 or 2, so I ain't got
it's very good. On. It's very good. Again, whenever the orb comes up, my stomach just kind of rolls and my eyes roll back in the head, and I hope it'll go away. But other than that, it's a good story.
Okay, cool.
And this stuff with how the Avengers died during that event is going to get real good too. And I read about it online a while back. It's issue 5 or 6. I believe this is a 12-issue limited series. Talking about issue 5 or 6, they really dive into Hawkeye's part into those Avengers dying and how he's still alive.
All right, then. Punisher 211, also good. I'm really enjoying this whole thing with him in the Iron Man suit. He got knocked into the ocean and his armor quit working at the end of last issue. He gets fished out in a literal fishing boat, and tracks down some of those ex-Shield guys who are using the armor and kidnaps one of them in a violent way. And basically drags him to a base and says, look, you're going to help me fix my armor. I'm going to kill you. He also stabs a dude in the skull. Punisher's always brutal and it's never meant for kids. So please don't let your children read this. But there are a couple of things in this particular issue that you're just like, it's over the top, even for the Punisher. So he lays out the armor, gets contacted by Nick Fury. Nick Fury's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm trying to find somebody to fix this armor. And then Fury's like, yeah, that guy can't fix your armor. And Punisher immediately blows his brains out. Like, Nick Fury's not even done talking. He's like, yeah, he can't fix it. And Punisher's like, blam, dude's gone.
Yeah.
He finds an engineer to do it, fixes his armor, and goes on a tear, just killing all of the lieutenants of this terrorist that they're trying to track down. Going so far as to fly a guy up into the air and dropping him from basically the stratosphere, wrecking a Jeep full of guys, killing a dude while he's fishing, and literally ripping a man in half in front of his girlfriend. Which triggers the response they want to drive the guy out of hiding that they're looking for, except now he's got a nuclear missile. So, yeah. Lots of violence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
This is the second time in a row I've screwed up reviewing Darth Vader. But we're not to Darth Vader yet. We're to Squirrel Girl. And Squirrel Girl, God bless her, there's these guys who've been spray painting themselves as the Silver Surfer and then getting a surfboard and painting it silver and going around the galaxy from planet to planet, holding it hostage. And so she attacks the Silver Surfer. Squirrel Girl attacks the Silver Surfer because she thinks that he's been holding these planets hostage. Loki's with her. Loki starts calling in all kinds of reinforcements. There's some funny notes at the bottom of the page about what Loki's doing. That's really entertaining. Finally, Loki realizes it's not. I just saw there's. I just got another update. There's a bunch of people dead there. Not with Loki, somewhere else.
Yeah.
Anywho, Loki calls in reinforcements. Finally, they realize that it's a hero fighting a hero, and they stop and try and negotiate with the fleet that's attacking them, and that really doesn't work out for everyone. So there you go. Yeah, it was entertaining. It's Squirrel Girl, man. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah,
it's always a goofy, fun time.
Yeah. Next, we have our Star Wars section with Darth Vader number 11. And of course, Darth Vader is still chasing the Force-sensitive people across the galaxy. It's pretty funny because he's at this, I guess you would call it the spaceport. And he's got is it Night Sister? Is that how you pronounce that? I assume it's not Night Sister. I assume it's Night Sister.
Yeah, it is.
Anyway, so Vader goes in there and she just kind of leaves him alone in there where his lightsaber gets destroyed and there's lots of fighting and Vader makes it out alive, but not very easily. And kind of blames her because the sister never goes in to assist him, never stops anyone from going in, never stops anyone. Vader said, stay here. So, he stayed there, man. He just sat right by the speeder and said, yeah, you told me to stay here, man. I'm here, and these people have a contract for Vader and Vader wants to know, who it was, who the contract came from, what it was for. And finally, they reach an agreement. There's three of them. It's a mother, father, daughter. If he'll let the daughter go, that they'll backtrack the contract and see where it came from. And which he does. They do. He lets the daughter go. And I did finish reading this. I was incorrect. Turns out the Emperor was the one who issued the contract on Vader's life.
Yep.
Yeah. Great art in this book, man.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's Salvador Larroca, I believe. So
I didn't know it wasn't. It was somebody else.
Was it not?
No, it's Salvador Larroca's doing.
He's doing. No, he was doing that other Star Wars series. Giuseppe Camuncoli. Probably didn't pronounce that right, but Charles Soule's writing it, and
yes,
yeah. The art in this has been really good.
It's really good. Charles Soule's doing a great job with it.
Absolutely. What do we have after that?
Poe Dameron, number 24.
Or as you wrote in the notes, Poe Dameron.
Dude, can I tell you how much I hate autocorrect?
I mean,
because, okay, it's almost a running joke on this show that I can't pronounce things, and I can't spell real well either. So there are times I need autocorrect to correct things for me. But if I type Poe, I want it to be Poe, not Pie.
I understand. You also typed Darth Vader instead of Darth Vader, but I'll let it. I'm just giving you a hard time. Poe Dameron, number 24. What's this dude's name? Terrax. There we go. Terrax has made away with Lor San Tekka, who they've been looking for this whole time. Terrax is smart enough to dump the tracker that they had on the ship, so they're not able to track him. And he's taking Lor San Tekka to Captain Phasma because they're looking, the First Order is looking for Lor San Tekka as well. And his bargaining chip is, hey, you're going to take this mind control device out of my skull and I'll give you Lor San Tekka. And it's almost comical because every little while he has to shock himself in the face to reset the machine so it won't control his mind anymore. So he just takes a stun baton and just right in the eye. And it's taking a toll on him. His head's smoking, the skin around where the implants are is degrading and cracked and gross looking. It's bad. So he walks up to Captain Phasma when they get there, says, here's what you're going to do. You're going to take this thing out of my skull and I'll give you Lor San Tekka. And she's like, well, we could just knock you unconscious and take him from you. He's like, yeah, well, you don't know where he is. And, you can't torture me for the information. She's like, well, why not? And he then injects himself with poison and says, cause I'll be dead in about 45 minutes. So they take the things out of his skull and he gives them the coordinates where he left Lor San Tekka. He then calls up Poe Dameron and says, hey, here's where Lor San Tekka is. Also, I gave Captain Phasma the same coordinates. Oh, you better hurry. He's floating out in open space in nothing but a spacesuit and he has limited oxygen. So it's a race.
There you go.
Yeah. And then we have Thrawn number 1, which I have looked forward to for quite some time. If you don't know who Thrawn is, he was a character in the old canon, resurrected in the new canon as Admiral Thrawn, and one of the top brass of the Empire.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that because Timothy Zahn wrote a lot of Star Wars books in the late 80s, early 90s. Mm-hmm. And the first thing he wrote was the Admiral Thrawn trilogy. And Thrawn was one of the Grand Admirals of the Imperial fleet at the time.
Yeah.
And he did those things are classic, man. They were great. And I knew we had revised the canon of Star Wars, and I didn't know where Thrawn came from. And that led to a text conversation where you and I talked about, I guess it was on Rebels, where they re-resurrected the character. Is that right?
Yeah, he was reintroduced in the Rebels cartoon series as kind of the main antagonist for that group of rebels, and was really good. I don't know who voiced him, but he's perfect for that kind of cold, calculating character that is Admiral Thrawn.
And if anybody knows where you can get seasons 1 through 3 of the Rebel series, please let us know, because all I can find is season 4 on the Disney app.
Yeah, I'll look at it later. Once the Disney streaming service comes around, you'll be able to watch anything and everything. But until
I guarantee it.
Yeah. So this is essentially his origin story. This is the early days of the Empire, and they're out in what's known as wild space, which is kind of the fringes of the galaxy that's only kind of been explored. And then you have what's even further, which is the unknown regions. They find this planet, and there's these legends of the Hiss, which are a race of aliens that Admiral Thrawn belongs to, but they're basically just myths and legends from a particular sector of the galaxy. No one's seen one in hundreds of years, and no one really knows anything about them. And Thrawn, who they find exiled on this planet, is basically laying waste to a bunch of Imperial forces who are trying to explore the planet. I mean, at one point, he blows up an entire unit of stormtroopers and sneaks in among the stormtroopers when they decide to leave the planet because they've lost too many soldiers. Instead of executing them like you would think they would do, they realize that he might be an asset. So they set him up with a translator and teach him Basic, which is the language that they speak in the Star Wars galaxy. It is at this point that they realize he's very intelligent and would do really well as an officer in the Empire. He meets personally with the Emperor, and the Emperor says, look, I can tell you lots of things about these unknown regions of space that you want to know about, that you're exploring. And in return, I'll serve you very well in this. And it turns out that Thrawn and Anakin Skywalker cross paths at one point in time. And of course, he doesn't know he's Darth Vader now. So begins the military career of Admiral Thrawn. He gets up jumped to lieutenant very quickly. There's all kinds of things where he's learning how he's learning the culture and the language and learning how to deal with being in the Imperial Academy. And it's really interesting. And you realize he's incredibly intelligent. He's calculating. He's an incredible tactician. And you understand, if you've seen Rebels, how he got to where an admiral of the Imperial fleet, or the Imperial Navy, essentially. The next issue, I think, we'll pick up with him further along in his career.
Is it pronounced Hiss or Chiss?
I believe it's Hiss.
Thank you. That cleared everything up.
Yeah. You can pronounce it Chiss. I don't know. I don't know what the pronunciation is.
Okay.
But in my head, when I read it, it's Hiss or Hiss.
Okay.
Anyway, it was good. It was really good.
It was very good. I really enjoyed it.
What was your favorite comic book this week?
Doctor Strange number 385.
That was a good one. There were a few duds this week.
That Thrawn book was good too, but that Doctor Strange book was good.
There were a lot of really good comics this week. Thrawn was very good and was the serious contender, as was Doctor Strange. But for me, it's going to be Captain America 698. That was
very good also.
It hit all the right points for me.
Right.
What's in the dump this week?
Just for a very brief history, we got some more Daredevil. They're still filling in that old run of Daredevil. We got some of the new Warriors stuff. If you happen to be a new Warriors fan, there's some Mephisto stuff where they were putting Mephisto against different characters. But the interesting thing in this week's dump was those two Hercules limited series, because Marvel had never done a limited series as such, and they really had to be sold on the ideal. The first one was the Wolverine limited series, which Frank Miller and Chris Claremont did. No, it sold because it was Wolverine. So everybody's like, okay, well, but does this concept work? And that's when Bob Layton presented this Hercules 4-issue limited series, and then, of course, a sequel of another 4 issues. And first, it's written and drawn by Bob Layton, who did his run on Iron Man was the whole Demon in the Bottle series. Lasted about 40 or 50 issues. Really good stuff here. But it also paved the way for the limited series as we know it. I mean, this was like this Hercules limited series, a Falcon limited series, and the Wolverine limited series were the first ones that Marvel did. And dude, it's Bob Layton doing this stuff, man. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Go check it out if you are into that sort of thing. Yeah. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
You can hit us up on the website at www.6monthsbehind.com.
And please follow us on Twitter at 6monthsbehind. That will do it for us for this week. We will be back next week with more comic books. In the meantime, Pat, share some wisdom with us.
Barack Obama is quoted as saying, "Nothing in life that's worth anything is easy."
Absolutely agree. See you guys next week.
Peace.